So you can also do it historically, where you actually analyze the features of our kebaya, and how is that affecting people during that time. Yeah. And if you want to compare it to the current scenario, well, Muslim women are not into wearing kebaya so much, right? So you can see the changes. Yeah. Or in terms of the making of the fabric itself. Yeah, I have one professor in UKM. She studied on kain lima, right? Which is actually much more difficult to and of higher status actually compared to songket during that time. Yeah, but because not many people are doing it, so it's somewhat extinct today, or endangered, I would say. All right, because not many people know about this fabric. Okay, all right. So yeah, I wonder if any of you are interested in historical study, because not many of us are doing this, right? But I know some lecturers in Malacca are doing on forensic photography, okay? But you can also study in terms of the history first, yeah, before you move forward doing the advanced version of forensic photography, for example. Okay, so historical study can also be based on audio representation, yeah, or meaning if you have some recorded stories from your great grandparents, maybe, yeah, that you are interested to look into, yeah, and this happens to be in audio form, so you can also study that. All right. What else? Okay, there are a lot actually under historical. Because you have the word text here, so it also includes, like, if you want to study Bible, right, or you want to study past how hadith, yeah, has been narrate to one person to another. Okay, all right. So people from the Archis faculty, actually, you should not bind yourself to only the Islamic studies, but you can also do a bit of historical studies and see all this. Yeah, all right. So yeah, okay. So yeah, this is the most popular one in qualitative study, which is a case study. To the extent that, because it's famous, right? To the extent that I find sometimes in journal article it is being used rampantly, or not giving enough credit to the idea of doing a case study. Okay, if you read a lot of journals, sometimes journal articles, and sometimes you can see that they just claim, oh, this is a case study, and then that's it. Okay, no further explanation of which type of case study are you actually doing. Okay, so if I were to be the reviewer, I would ask, which case study is this? Because I see there are many articles in journals which overclaim. They just simply write it, case study, interview, blah, blah, blah. And then that's that. And you expect us reader to believe that your finding is credible, yeah, or is correct to that particular case. Okay, so if you feel that you want to do this for your PhD, and then I hope you would read in depth and understand that there are different types of case study, and at least know which one you are embarking on. Okay, so yeah, all qualitative designs requires in-depth, right? In-depth study or in-depth description of whatever situation that you are looking into. But please first understand, what are you actually doing? Are you going to explain? Okay, are you going to explore? Right? Are you going to do illustrative? Okay, are you going to do critical or accumulative? Yeah, these things to me is important for you to at least know first, because then only you are doing justification to the case. All right. There are so many papers out there writing on orang asli, for example. So they just claim they do case study because it involves orang asli. All right, or which is sometimes to study orang asli, you can also do ethnography, for example, not just a case study. All right, so Okay, so if you are looking into these days under what's a bit understudied out there is about this transgendering. Have you heard about it? Yeah, people who are transgender now revert to the idea of not becoming a transgender anymore. So you have de-transgendering. Okay, so I think that would fall under a case study of a critical instance, if you or maybe critical instance where they would change. Yeah, all right, it's more of an extreme case, it's a deviant setting, things like that. So you before you embark on choosing what kind of design, please understand how is it different. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, if you want to do on this transgender, okay, so you have to like understand first, should I do case study or should I do phenomenological? Okay, because both requires in-depth, but both may go in a different procedure of actually doing it. Okay. Alright, so another case study that you could actually do is this virtual case study. Alright, we have a lot on telemedicine, for example. Yeah, so where people can just ask question online or ask question via Twitter or whatsoever, or this telemedicine. So that would fall under virtual case study. So if you want to see the effect of having this, should I call Dr. Google? Yeah, right, the effect of having Dr. Google, everybody would just Google whatever medication they need, instead of going to clinic and actually seeing a doctor. Okay, so this would fall under virtual case study. So you want to look into how a certain phenomena are changed because of a certain case is changed because of having this technologically advanced platform. Yeah, all right, so if you want to do a case study on business, for example, some business venture, for example, or business management, administration, or whatsoever, and they are really close to having almost everything online, so you can do this virtual case study. Okay, so that's why sometimes if you want to study the behavior of people shopping online, for example, yeah, so instead of just putting in your article, this is a case study, all right, so why don't you narrow it a bit into this virtual case study, and then you have this whole list of procedures that you might want to consider to make your publication much more credible. Okay, so with that you may be able to publish in a better high impact journal, for example, if you detail out your procedure of doing this actually. Yeah, so okay, all right, okay, so the next one is ethnography. Okay, again, it's inductive in nature. Okay, it's exploratory in nature, and it's long term. Okay, so I guess this is one of the reasons why people resort to case study rather than ethnography, because the idea of they are there for just one short moment. Okay, but ethnography requires such a period of time to do justice to the study. Okay, so ethnography is more of by the word itself, yeah, ethnic, people, society. Yeah, it doesn't have to be orang asli actually, yeah, but as long as it's in a group of people, how they interact within themselves or with outside. Okay, other community, for example. Okay, so when you do ethnography, there are certain orientation that you may want to read on so that you further do justice. Okay, right, so structure you look into, for example, kingship, yeah, families, traits, and things like that. All right, interactionism is usually for language studies. Okay, feminism is where you want to see equal between men and women. Okay, so this is of equal how should I say it, egalitarians usually, yeah, where father and mother share equal responsibilities in finding money, for example, yeah, or finding food. Those are for the egalitarians, yeah. Marxism, if you are looking into social capital, I think, yeah, right. If you want to look into social strata, maybe, yeah, right. Critical theory is also one thing that you can do under ethnography. Modernism, if you want to question certain things that happens in the certain idea, yeah, of what happens in the modern world. So you want to question that theory and you want to study more about what's next for the future. Okay, so you can do ethnography. Okay, design ethnography is also fun for people who are into media, maybe, and into arts, yeah, like I mentioned just now, clothing, fabrics, things like that. All right, or in terms of how a certain logo actually have effect on people. All right, so like you want to study the effect of logos, yeah, like some logos are into a certain colors. The purpose is to do this, the purpose is to do that, and then you want to look into how the effect of this logo to children or to a certain group of race, okay, and it's long term, so you do ethnography. Okay, but again, you have to like really understand the difference between case study and ethnography. The easier route is to actually claim that you are doing a case study. People do that a lot. All right, but if you have like a much more passion towards doing this correctly, then please understand what's ethnography first, because sometimes what you are doing may fall into ethnography. All right, like I mentioned just now, the idea of wearing kebaya for Malays, or the idea of wearing kebaya for the Baba Nyonya people. Okay, and if you are doing it to in a certain extent, looking how the Baba Nyonya interact about their clothing, yeah, maybe that can be ethnography, yeah, instead of just a case study. Okay, but yeah, it goes into a lot of understanding the theoretical orientation. All right, so what I'm giving here today is just on the surface. Okay, narrative inquiry, as I mentioned just now, is rather new, okay, compared to case study. The reason behind narrative inquiry, because sometimes people tend to do case study, but superficial case studies. Okay, so we have this narrative inquiry, simply saying that yes, it still takes the notion of a case study, but all the observation, interview, all those stories, autobiographies, or field notes, or whatsoever, yeah, it means that it has to take data, collect data from various techniques, yeah, various methods to do it. Okay, but it can be as down to one or two participant. Okay, that's the some people would cherish about narrative inquiry, because I don't have to find so many respondents, yeah, I don't have to find so many participant informants, sorry. Okay, so but doing narrative inquiry is a challenge to a certain extent, where you need to make sure that your participant is the right participant to begin with. Yeah, you don't want to spend so long, like 6 months with this particular person, and then realizing that this person is not giving you enough conversations, yeah, not giving you enough details, or not actually sharing to the extent that you expect, yeah, the person would be. Right, so in narrative inquiry, you have to make sure that you have filter, yeah, when and do a very systematic sampling of choosing the right participant for narrative inquiry. Yeah, the person must be willing to narrate, all these stories, give all this data, then only you can do a justification to narrative inquiry research. Okay, right? It can be as simple. Again, I should not use the word simple. Nothing is simple in research. Right? It can be on a particular person journey of retransitioning just now, because I'm like reading on it these days, so in my head it's just all about that, detrans gendering. Okay, right? So you may have like one person to give you all this, but if you try to gather more information, actually then you find that, okay, this person didn't actually go through this by himself, he actually heard it from someone, so then he's not a perfect candidate, participant for narrative inquiry. Okay, and then you also have to like first determine the correct demographic for your participant when you are doing narrative inquiry, because if you find out, you have to know your participant, that if you're looking into the idea of asking this person about something like B40, for example, then narrative inquiry should cover more people, because there are the population is big, right? So then maybe narrative inquiry might not be the suitable design for it. Okay, but if you want to do narrative inquiry for unique scenario, like for example, I'm also doing this thing on Adi Guru. Okay, there are not many Adi Guru in Malaysia, but they are bestowed by the Sultan, maybe, the status of this Adi Guru, people who are very much into producing all these arts, which are I would say endangered in Malaysia. I don't know. Okay, but Malaysian people are not so much into the local traditional arts. So maybe you can do narrative inquiry talking to one carver, for example, wood carver, who has reached the status of Adi Guru. So that's what I'm also doing these days. Okay, all right. Next is grounded theory. Okay, I have not personally done any qualitative study using grounded theory, and then so I wouldn't dare to like actually claim my knowledge on this. Okay, but technically it's you have to first do a lot of readings and make sure that this particular area has not been tapped into before. Okay, because grounded theory, people would say it's rather if you're a novice, okay, meaning you're not that knowledgeable, you will find that to do grounded theory is quite easy, because you don't need to like rely it on a certain idea or certain theory or certain concept before, because you can just actually jump into it and do it. But that's actually not credible. Okay, that's not how you should do grounded theory. All right, you must first make sure that people have not actually tapped into this. It's very that's why I wrote theoretical sensitivity there, because you have to make sure that the theory is not available at first. Then you want to actually try to prove it, that there's an extension to it, or there's you want to actually propose it. I don't do this because I'm not saying that I'm going to refrain myself from doing it, because I think it takes a lot of time to actually have the enough knowledge to actually certify that, okay, this particular area can take the route of a grounded theory. Okay, right? Because for me it's heavy, but it may not be challenging for you later. Okay, but if you're graduate students, I think avoid from doing grounded theory for your PhD just yet. Okay, because you will get a lot of questions during your viva later. All right, okay, not to refrain you just yet, but at least my cautious is that you better understand the idea first, yeah, before you actually do grounded theory. Because I myself, I'm not really confident in doing grounded theory just yet, yeah. Probably later, I don't know, yeah. But because it requires a lot of knowledge, yeah, to actually do grounded theory. Okay. All right. What's next? Okay, we've looked into this. Okay. Phenomenological. All right. People usually like to do case study instead of phenomenological, but when you look case study, is also study in depth. Phenomenological is also study in depth. But what's the difference then? Okay, what's the difference? Right. Usually it's about having this, like, these people have actually experienced something. Okay, this group of participants that you, or informants that you have, has actually faced a certain calamity, has actually experienced something big, okay, has experienced something that is not experienced by other people, okay, and you want to see how this phenomena actually affect their notion of life, or feelings towards another group of people, yeah, how they actually bring themselves in the world, all right, because of the effect of that particular experience that they have. So that's why I'm like still thinking if phenomenological fits the idea if I want to study more of de-transgendering community, okay, because if I were to, I think at this juncture, yeah, I need to read more. If I were to do a case study and then I would not do justification as much, yeah, I think phenomenological study would be better, because they actually have undergone a certain phenomena in their life, yeah, a certain experience in their life, which is rather unique. Not many people experience it, especially if you talk about Muslim transgender, maybe, and see how Muslim actually go through this phenomena of de-transgendering. Okay, right, okay. So that would be something to write about, right? Yeah, some kind of experience. Okay, you should not marry it together. Like if I were to share the experience of how the orang asli had to face elephants, yeah, rampaging in their village, okay, so and then they will say because of the elephant they don't go to school, okay, so then you have to actually try to bracket the idea that they don't go to school just because of the elephant rampaging in their village, or there are other bigger issues, okay, so you have to bracket the idea of actually the items that made the orang asli, the indigenous people, not going to school. Okay, so because they will talk about so many things, yeah, their father, their mother, their lifestyle, the what do you call it, logistic problems that they have, you know. So there are a lot actually. So you have to bracket it first, okay. But you know, because you have, people tend to talk so much, isn't it? Then you have to know which one is actually correct to your certain area, for example. Okay, then you have to intuition, yeah, based on your gut feeling, based on your reading as well. Try to suggest, okay, in what particular themes, right, the data are suitable for you to put into, all right, then only you analyze and you describe it, okay. Again, phenomenological has to be your participant has actually experienced a certain phenomena, okay, then only you do this, okay. All right, so those are all the designs. So we have gone through like how many? 7, right? Yeah, 7 designs, okay. So let's look into the method, right? So I hope in your mind somehow you have you know, try to formulate, you know, what I'm going to do for my PhD, which design, for example. Okay, now the 7 design that we have, you know, you can also do interview, right? Most of the design just now you would do an interview, right? But you also need to know what sort of process that you're going to go through in doing this interview. Alright, so that's why I mentioned just now, when I read journal article, people just mention they do interview, that's it. Alright, but which structure that you are following, okay? So if you are doing probing, then of course there's technique to it, okay? If you are doing quality research inquiry, of course there are technique to it that you have to follow, okay? Alright, so the next time you want to write in your publication, your journal article, alright, give your reader a little bit of information, more information, okay, rather than just saying, okay, you've done interview, alright. Okay. The next method, if yes, you will do discussion, okay, but again, there are also several types of discussion, okay, there are several techniques to discussion as well, alright. So you may do focus group, okay, you may do panel, you may do round table, you may do this KJ method, but it's just, some people would call it KJ technique, right? It can be a technique, it can also be a method to that extent. And then work group method, alright? I think some people, when they write their journal article, they just say that they do a discussion, okay? Or to be a little bit, sound knowledgeable, they will say that they do focus group discussion, okay? But they don't further explain in detail, okay? But if you want to publish good articles, then you have to figure out which one, yeah, and give more information. Like for example, focus group and round table, okay? Now if you are interviewing, if you're putting like officers, okay, in a meeting room, someone is from Jakwa, someone is from Kementerian Kemajuan Luar Bandar, you're putting all these officers, then what you are doing is actually round table, okay? You're not doing focus group, right? So there's a difference there, okay? So in a long term, I hope you can actually go into reading on this in detail if you wish to do on discussion, okay? Just like work group method, okay, there's a processes that you need to follow, okay, less I have written there, okay, right, okay. Then in terms of method, observation, this is something that everybody also claim doing, okay, but they don't further explain whether they are doing full observation, partial or interval observation, okay? They just say they do observation, that's it, okay? I spent 3 months in blah 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 because I observe. So what type of observation is there? Are you like really doing full observation, or are you just doing partial? You observe a classroom, for example, is that partial, is that full? Okay, so you have to know the differences, alright? Okay, now which one types of participatory are you getting yourself into? Okay, when I did my PhD, I did more of observation participant, because I don't want to interfere with the life of the orang asli, for example. Okay, then you also need to know what does it mean by total immersion, yeah, observation where you actually do total immersion, right? Then you also need to know there's a difference between when you are also part of the community, okay, and you are observing your own community, so there's a term for it. Or if you are not from the community but you are observing the community, so there's a different term for it as well, okay. So, and then you also have to like inform whether you are doing it overtly or covertly, meaning do they know that you are observing them, okay, or they don't know that you are observing them, okay. So these are the things that you also have to inform, yeah, if you're doing your PhD on this. Go into detail of what type of observation that you are actually doing, okay. Alright. This is narrative diary or journaling, or sometimes we do memo, okay. So under narrative diary, it can also be from you, as the researcher, okay. You write a diary as you do this, yeah, as you do ethnography, for example, you are also doing narrative diary for your own reflections, okay. So you also write your experience, okay. I've been working with the orang asli, for example, since 2010. Alright, so now it's like 13 years. Okay, I should have done narrative diary, but I did a lot of memoing. Actually, I did small notes here and there. Okay, I should have done narrative diary because I actually went through that experience myself, right? For 13 years, I noticed the changes that the orang asli is going through, and I see how researchers are also changing the orang asli, okay? Because researchers bring in a lot of equipments with them, so that also changed the lifestyle of orang asli actually, okay? So I did memos. I still have a lot of memos, but I think at this juncture I should have started with narrative diary. So this is what I'm saying, is that before you actually embark on qualitative, I think you should get whole knowledge of it first, so that you don't regret later, like I keep on saying that I should have done narrative diary. Okay, because then I could write another article on how researcher effect on the lifestyle of orang asli. Like initially they don't have handphones, now most orang asli have handphones. When I first started with the orang asli, they don't have any gadgets. Now they have abundant, and partly because the researcher bring in tablets, showing them pictures and things like that, so they feel like they want to have one of those as well. Okay, but way back then when it first started, based on the stories that they have told me, it's like initially they would just dig hole using this pole sharpened from when they will hit this wood, this pole on rocks to make it sharp. So this is not like taking a sharp stone and carve through it. No, they would just beat the pole on the stone to make it sharp. But then way back then in the 60s, 50s, there are researchers who come into the jungle with what do you call it? Kita panggil apa yang korek lubang tu kan, that I'm lost for the words now. Okay, so that is actually one of the impact. So these days the orang asli, they don't dig hole using those poles anymore, right? They use a lot of other equipments, right? Okay, and then next is you have techniques. Okay, so you have design, you have methods, then you can also have techniques, right? I would put all this, there are a lot actually, don't limit yourself to just these four. There are actually a lot. Okay, so techniques. Okay, one that people don't really realize, that when they collect data of family gathering, for example during a wedding, okay, during a wedding, so that scenario is somewhat different if you collect a data of a family outside of the wedding, right? Okay, because there was one time that I did a bit on blended family. Okay, so I requested to attend this preparation of weddings, just to see how blended family would interact during the preparation of weddings and on the wedding day itself. Okay, so all that is more of a stage communication, because your participant is somehow might change in behavior, because this is for someone's wedding, isn't it? But because they are from blended family simply means that you have siblings before this current wedding, this current marriage, right? So meaning you have like half step siblings, getting together in preparing a wedding, right? So that would fall under stage communication, because outside of this preparation for the wedding and the wedding itself, they might not behave in that manner. Okay, so you decide your techniques. Okay, which one do you want to do? Okay, now just now when we talk about the method of doing discussion, then you also have techniques under discussion: fuzzy Delphi, advanced fuzzy Delphi, or you want to do this KJ technique as I mentioned just now. Alright, so so when you write your journal article, for example, don't just say that you are doing a discussion, focus group discussion, that's it. Or like tell us a bit of what technique are you using. Okay, Photo voice is also a technique of how you want to induce people to give you data, right? Like you are doing a focus group discussion, for example, but usually it's more of things that they already know, and you go in round the table, right, doing this fuzzy technique, and then sometimes you can get stuck or dry. The conversation is not going smoothly as you would expect. So you may induce, or you may throw in a certain instrument to get more information from this interview. And one of the techniques is actually to use photo voice, or you can also use pictures, to somehow get their reflection, their perception of this certain photo. All right, then they will have a lot of more things to tell you. Okay, so so doing interview is within this issue that you want to ask. Okay, so when you would do that when you have a lot of time, right? Sometimes people would do deductively because they have very limited time. So all that must be explained and defend why do you do this. Okay, but if you are doing this, like for example, when I asked the oral asli, like, don't you want to do this, don't you want to have that, and then they will always tell me that if I want to have this, meaning electricity, for example, meaning I have to pay. So the idea of paying means I have to work. The idea of working meaning I have to do this. So there's a whole list of things to do just to get electricity, for example. Okay, so are they willing to go through all that? Okay, so this is actually a very you have to have a very strong relationship with the oral asli to just directly ask like that, because it's rather sensitive. You don't even like in your own community, you don't suddenly go meet your colleague and ask what's your salary, okay, and what are you going to do to get more, to get your promotion, for example. So those are certain questions that we find very not appropriate to ask, depending on your relationship and depending on time when you ask, where you ask, and who you are to ask. Okay, things like that. So to get answers of sensitive questions, use techniques. Okay, the text you use. Okay, so you want to put your data in grid. If you unnecessary for you to categorize your data, plain, why are you not doing it? But I think it's almost natural for us to actually, we are so used to putting things into